And so Matt, you're talking with investors every day. I mean, how do the lending club incidents? How has that affected the investor sentiment, and what are investors asking now that they weren't asking 9 months ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ram hit on a lot of the points there. I mean, we saw there was a massive group of institutional investors that was moving into the space, and these were less hedge funds that were setting up kind of specific marketplace lending or online lending funds, and more large $100 billion plus asset managers that were creating a new sleeve to invest in this asset class. And from a timing perspective, it was difficult because when most of them were about to go to credit committee, or many of the large early ones, was right when the lending club news hit. So all of those efforts just went on freeze. And so we saw basically they took the entire summer off. So they basically said, look, we're still interested, please give us updates, but there's no way we're taking this to credit committee anytime soon. And we've seen some of those investors start to come back, but it's a very slow process. I think what you realize is that investor trust is something that takes years to build and seconds to lose. And so it's one thing that you have to realize when you're building a business in this space, that you have to dot every I and cross every T and have systems in place so that you don't lose that trust.
Right. And so I noticed, I had lots of conversations yesterday. I noticed sitting here, and many of the speakers talked about one company that seems to be unaffected. And I just want to talk about SoFi just for a second. I know, Phin, they're one of your portfolio companies, and it seems in some ways they are sort of separate from the industry because they seem to be unaffected by anything that happens. And Ram, you just talked about the pricing that they have. I mean, can we just talk about them for a second? How have they been able to stay unaffected?
So raising $1 billion right before the crash helped a lot.
That helps a lot.
As a SoftBank put in $1 billion at a $2.25 billion valuation, which was tremendously significant. The second thing SoFi did was they sort of, unlike the rest of the industry who didn't have that capital and didn't have the ambition maybe they had, they started trying tons of new things and really spending money to expand and grow, and while maintaining discipline in their core area. And so while everyone else has been cutting products, cutting new efforts, rationalizing their business, SoFi's been willing to launch new products. I think 2 new products this year so far, maybe 3 if you count SoFi at Work, which is just, I mean, they probably single-handedly launched more products than half the other top 10 companies. So I think that was important. Secondly, I do think it's part of a more general trend, I think, of a barbelling of the sector, which is, I think the super high quality stuff has been okay. The defaults have been fine, sort of a little bit more resistant to the economic downturn and people's concern. And in a weird sense, like, there's a true regulatory arb there, where if you can redline without redlining and you're a non-bank, you can get away with having really good credit in a way that banks literally cannot compete with you. They don't do that, right? So if you're Citigroup or you're JP Morgan or you're like, Wells Fargo, you simply cannot cater to the top 10% of the market for lots of reasons. And then secondly, this bottom of the market's done fine too, right? So we've had like payday lenders, and maybe it's always crisis situation for most of their customers, but you haven't really seen anything horrible happen there. You've seen things go fine. You saw an IPO get pulled just recently, but beyond that, volumes and credit and profit margins are all fine. So it's really the middle of the market that's gotten hurt, and that's probably one reason why SoFi has done better. Right. Also, Nino and Mike are stunningly good operators.